While everyone was distracted by the coup in Russia this weekend, or so-called coup, the real war was unfolding right before our eyes in China. And what Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping have created is nothing short of a fortress, and it has devastating consequences for the United States economy over the next decade. Do you remember a few weeks ago when a sitting member of Congress said this about blowing up the largest microchip manufacturer in Taiwan?
Just making it very clear to the Chinese that if you invade Taiwan, we're going to blow up TSMC. I just throw that out not because that's necessarily the best strategy, but because it's an example of debate that's out there. And of course, the Taiwanese really don't like this idea.
Yes, he said that. Now put a pin in that for a moment, because we're going to come back to that incredible statement. If you're an investor, you need to pay attention, because China is building the new Great Wall of China, and the United States is actively trying to sabotage this fortress because it's about to be smoked by the competition. Now I'm going to get into all of this in a moment, but first, a few months ago, the world was on high alert. You'll remember this. Would there be a physical war after then Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi made a very strange visit to the island of Taiwan in August? China's warplanes went on high alert, mobilized forces. Did we have a death wish? What were we thinking? We have a one China policy. Taiwan is not an independent country. This was a massive provocation. I'll remind you that Taiwan is actually part of China, and the United States' official position is a one China policy. You can even go right on the U.S. State Department's very own website, right here. Quote, "We do not support Taiwan independence." And then a few days later, President Biden goes on 60 Minutes, and when Scott Pelley asks him if we would defend Taiwan during an invasion, Biden says, yes, we would. And then Pelley, just to be sure and confirm what he just said, asked the president a follow-up. You mean you'd send America's sons and daughters to fight in Taiwan against China? And his answer, yes. China was furious that the United States Speaker of the House would provocate like this, pretending that Taiwan was an independent country, a slap in the face to China. But the real story was a few layers deep, and it wasn't meant to make headlines. Pelosi's real reason for visiting Taiwan was to meet with the team at Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing plant, the most important chip manufacturer in the entire world. Photos later leaked of her meeting, and Pelosi also brought along her son to those meetings. What the heck was going on here? What was she doing there? Checking on her stock portfolio, her stock picks? We know she's a big investor. Imagine using taxpayer dollars to fly around the world to check on your stock picks. Must be nice. But something bigger was happening. If the so-called pandemic taught us anything, it taught the United States a valuable lesson. Microchips. They drive everything the United States uses. And when suddenly we don't have access to microchips, America grinds to a halt. And I'm talking everything, from our tanks and our weapons on the battlefield to our iPhones and toothbrushes, everything. The United States suddenly woke up and realized that over 90% of the world's semiconductors are made in the very place that many U.S. officials think could be the site of the next great global conflict, Taiwan. That's right. 90% of all chips are made in Taiwan. So if China were to mobilize forces into Taiwan, they could make sure that no one else could get their hands on these chips, effectively cornering the market. The United States believes that China will in fact do this in the next few years. Move forces into Taiwan. So it's damn curious then why Pelosi was in Taiwan, because shortly after the U.S. announced it was bringing a new version of the Taiwan semiconductor plant to Arizona. It was going to be an exact replica of what they were doing in Taiwan. So the United States would be home to a new Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing plant. And here it is being built in Arizona. Now they're actively hiring for positions at that plant. And then Congress suddenly announces the new CHIPS Act to boost development of silicon in the United States. The timing of all of this is very, very interesting. And if that's not enough, then members of Congress let slip this bit of stunning news, which we told you to put a pin in, but it's worth repeating. They've actually been talking about bombing the Taiwanese semiconductor plant so that China couldn't get its hands on these chips.
Just making it very clear to the Chinese that if you invade Taiwan, we're going to blow up TSMC.
You can't make this stuff up. This is how these psychopaths think. And then in an apparent about-face, the Biden administration suddenly says, no. We don't believe Taiwan independence. We don't believe Taiwan's independent. We believe in the one China policy. Antony Blinken, just a few weeks ago, visiting China.
On Taiwan, I reiterated the long-standing U.S. one China policy. That policy has not changed.
Wait, really? So as Colin Rugg tweeted, Blinken gives China the green light to invade Taiwan during his visit to Beijing. Well, you can't invade your own country, but you can sure put troops there. China could move forces into Taiwan and make sure that no one touches Taiwan Semiconductor's manufacturing plants, and they could cut off 90% of the world's chips to the United States. Then you know what's coming. You just built a replica version of that very same plant in Arizona after Pelosi visits the plant. Come on, we're not stupid here. And as this tweet points out, quote, "It was clear from the very beginning that the U.S. doesn't care about Taiwan, but only about the chips, and they will blow up Taiwan Semiconductor as soon as they build up a factory in the United States." And they know the global demand for chips is off the charts right now and only growing with the explosion of AI. There's a land rush right now to get chips because every company is trying to figure out how in the world they can build AI components and services into their companies. This is a revolution in computing that we haven't seen in decades. And those with the supply of chips will win that race. So that's the news update